You know, you ought to have a little more patience with life.
Yeah, well, I'm all out. The whole deal is like some kind of crazy game. They put you at the starting line, and the name of the game is Make It Through Life. Only everyone's out for themselves and looking to do you in at the same time. Okay, man, here we are. Here we are. Now, you do what you can. But remember, I'm going to do my best to blow your ass away. So how are you going to make it?
I deliver a hard day's work for the money. I just want the chance. It'll come. I believe in America. I follow the rules.
So in that clip, we see Roddy Piper talking to Keith David about the hardships of society in John Carpenter's 1988 classic, They Live. Thank you for watching Cody and Joey Reviews. I'm Joey.
And I'm Cody.
So They Live is, I think, it's best described as like a horror / thriller / action film. I recently just got to watch it this weekend, and boy, I feel like I missed out on something great. I mean, this is a fantastic movie from beginning to end. It makes you think. There's definitely lots of twists from beginning to end. You have a colorful cast of characters, and yeah, if you haven't seen it already, this is a great film. This is our first classic review that we're doing today.
Yeah, we're sort of doing this in honor of the death of Roddy Piper, the main actor of this film. A local theater in our city actually was playing the movie in honor of Roddy Piper, so we thought it would be a fun idea. Most of the movies we've been reviewing are movies that came out this year, so we thought it would be fun to sort of visit what's considered a cult classic. Definitely one of my favorites. This movie is directed by John Carpenter, one of my favorite directors of all time. Did such classic films like Halloween, The Thing, Assault on Precinct 13. So I really admired this guy, and I first seen this movie a few years back. I think 3 years ago I first saw this film, and definitely it's a really fun time. I think Roddy Piper, he really shows something. Of course, he was a wrestler firsthand, and this is one of the few cases. I think the other time I can think of is with The Rock, where an actor came out of wrestling and definitely, he actually does a very good job at acting, and you talk about the cast, Keith David, they sort of play well with each other, going off of, they're sort of big muscle men sort of thing, and they have a charm with their audience, and definitely they work together very well. I mean, and also the conspiracy in this movie. Basically, this movie is sort of about Roddy Piper's character, who's named Nada. Basically, he doesn't really have a real name. He's sort of an everyman, anyone who can sort of relate to him. He discovers a pair of sunglasses that sort of lets him see through the illusion that these aliens who have come to Earth have given us, sort of to keep us in a sleep state, to sort of obey what they do and follow their orders. I mean, I really like the conspiracy. I'm a huge conspiracy theorist guy, so this really got to me. What do you think of the whole conspiracy in general?
I thought that was really clever how they pulled it off. It's definitely relatable to today. I think where they try to have like society like kind of conform to everything in like a perfect way. So I thought that was really clever, and I think it's kind of, it shows you, it's like things may look good on the outside, but like what's really on the inside, and like whenever like Roddy Piper's character, Keith David would like wear the glasses, they would see some people that would like be categorized as like the like bad guys, and then you'd see some people like whose faces wouldn't change. So that was kind of interesting because you had both good and bad people, but they were kind of like integrated and like embedded within society. So I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of most of this movie sort of plays with the idea that maybe it is all in Roddy Piper's head. He's the only one with the glasses. He's the only one seeing these aliens. And I think it's very clever how they do it. Like, at one point, at some points you're rooting with Roddy Piper. Basically, you want him to kill these aliens. But at the same time, you're like seeing scenes of him going into banks and stuff like that and just shooting up people who they look like us. It's just through these sunglasses, they look like something else. And I really like that ambiguity. Of course, they can't play through the rest of the movie, and they have to introduce other characters that see what he sees. But definitely, I like that whole ambiguity. And of course, subliminal messages. I think we all sort of read about that, Coke labels sort of giving suggestions of people doing drugs sort of stuff, subliminal advertising. I think it's actually a really cool premise. And the way John Carpenter does it is almost expert. I like the idea, when we see what we perceive as the real world, it's in color, but when you put on these glasses and see what the real world is, it's in black and white. I think he does play really well with the imagery of what is real and what isn't.
Yeah, and I think he made a really good point of that, how he uses really good metaphors. There was an excellent fight scene in the middle between Roddy Piper and Keith David. I mean, it was somewhat comedic because it just kind of kept going on and on. But I think the idea of that is that some people just aren't willing to see things from that person's perspective. So he was trying so hard for Keith David to put on those glasses and just see things from his perspective, and some people just refuse to. It's like when two people are fighting. I mean, you have one person who thinks that they're right and the other person that just, that also thinks that they're right, and neither person would nudge. So I thought that was very excellent how they did that. I also want to say that Meg Foster was such a great actress in this. I mean, you could tell from the very beginning there was something off about her, and that plays throughout the film. I mean, her eyes even kind of look foreign.
Yeah, definitely her eyes. Just looking at her at first, it's like there's something off about this woman.
Yeah.
And she's not an alien. I don't really want to give too much away, but definitely casting Meg Foster in this movie with her weird eyes and sort of her weird, sort of calm and smooth delivery, you instantly sort of suspect her. They give you moments in the film where it's like maybe she's on their side, but definitely you don't really trust her too much.
Yeah. And I mean, when you look back, I think, and if you rewatch the film, you kind of notice that John Carpenter put little pieces here and there to kind of tell you, who these characters are. And I thought that was really clever as well. I also kind of liked how they sort of referenced, that whole police state mentality. I mean, you have these rebels trying to go against the ones that live, I guess, the ones that no one else can see unless you wear the glasses. And I mean, you have this huge, force of police trying to just stop them. So I thought that's, really relevant to today's time with protesting and things.
Yeah, definitely. It was relevant back in the 80s with Reaganomics. Basically, John Carpenter has come out and said this movie was more of a statement about Reagan, but definitely I feel like this movie holds up because we have seen that in society nowadays, what with police brutality being more public, sort of, people have recorded more of it, and basically, the 1% versus the 99%. I feel like this movie is just as relevant nowadays as it was back then. It's a movie that I really enjoy watching ever since the first time. It's a movie that holds up. It's a very entertaining from beginning to end science fiction horror thriller, and if I had to give it a rating, I would give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think basically anyone can go and watch this and they'll have a very good time, very entertaining. It's sort of one of the best representations of John Carpenter as a filmmaker. It was sort of his last great film. Most of John Carpenter's earlier works are almost phenomenal. They're iconic. You can watch them over and over again and just catch so many things. This was sort of in the latter half of his career where he got more money. Basically, he wasn't the same filmmaker as he was. He was definitely a grindhouse filmmaker, and this is one of the films that really shows his talent. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, and I'm going to give it the exact same score. I recommend this movie, and this is my first time seeing John Carpenter. So after this, I definitely want to check out the other movies that he has. Definitely recommend it.
All right, and thank you for joining us with Cody and Joey Reviews.
And stay tuned.